Welcome back. We're jumping right in today with a really fascinating submission. It analyzes the 2025 U.S. boycott of the G20 Summit in South Africa. And it argues this boycott under the Trump administration sparked a potential global South resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the piece itself is just incredibly rich in its factual reporting. I mean, the details of the boycott, the sources, it's all there.
Oh, absolutely. That foundation is more than solid, it's robust. Which is great because it means we can get straight to the high-level analysis.
Exactly. Which brings us to the first big opportunity. The primary opportunity to elevate this material is to robustly support the powerful analytical concept introduced in the title, the Global South Resurgence.
Right. That title is a huge claim, a declarative statement. And right now, the material gives us all the context for that statement, but maybe not the definitive proof.
That's it. That's the core of the weakness here. It's brilliant at detailing the conditions for the resurgence. The U.S. leaves, it creates a vacuum.
And countries like India and Brazil step onto the stage.
Yes, but it falls short of showing what that resurgence actually delivered. In policy terms, in diplomatic terms, during the summit itself.
I see.
Listing the impacts like weakened G20 unity or more room for China and Russia, that shows a shift in the environment. But that's not the same as a lasting resurgence of influence.
It's the difference between occupying a space and actually building something in it.
Exactly. A resurgence has to be about what the bloc did, not just where they were standing.
That's a fair point. I mean, I do wonder if the very act of preventing a total collapse, of just holding the stage, isn't a form of resurgence in itself. It kind of depends on how you define it.
It does, but for a title that strong, the analysis has to prove the Global South was setting the agenda, not just, keeping the lights on.
Okay.
So the suggestion for improvement is to shift the focus. Move from reporting the environment to analyzing specific evidence of new, sustained power being exerted by the Global South bloc during that meeting.
We need to see them driving outcomes.
Yes, we need to see the receipts. So let's take that section on India. It notes they helped stabilize the message and said, multilateralism must continue. Great quote. But we need to go beyond the quote.
So not just that they stabilized it, but how?
Precisely. Was there a specific resolution? Maybe some wording in the joint statement about, development funding that India championed? Something they protected from outside influence?
If you can point to that specific language and say this is here because of India's leadership in that moment, that's irrefutable proof of agenda-setting power.
Right. And building on that, let's talk about the climate agenda. The material says that was a key reason the U.S. bailed.
A point of friction.
A huge one. So did the Global South manage to push through provisions on carbon markets, technology transfer, whatever, that the U.S. had previously blocked?
Because if they did, that's a perfect example. A direct consequence of the U.S. absence leading to a tangible policy win. That's newfound power.
And one more thing on this. The new initiatives for Africa. The summit was in South Africa. The U.S. snubbed it. So what happened next?
The Global South should have responded by filling that void with something concrete.
Exactly. The analysis needs to detail what those new initiatives were. Were they championed by South Africa, by India? You have to link them directly to that vacuum the U.S. created. It shows the space wasn't just occupied, it was used aggressively.
That really moves the whole piece from just reporting a shift to proving a power exertion. It makes the analysis live up to the stakes of its own title.
Okay, so that leads us really nicely into the second major area for growth, which is, I think it's critical for any kind of geopolitical analysis today. To establish a truly robust and comprehensive argument about a power shift, the material must proactively address the inherent limitations and potential counter-narratives.
You have to introduce some constructive skepticism.
Yes. Right now, the piece strongly frames the U.S. absence as basically a net gain for the Global South. It mentions weakened G20 unity as an unfortunate side effect, but that's about it.
It feels a bit too clean, maybe, a bit too simple. A listener might wonder, is this resurgence fragile? Is it temporary? Is the bloc even unified?
And the big one. Does the absence of the world's largest economy actually cripple the G20's ability to solve global problems, no matter who's at the center of the stage?
Right. If the whole point of the forum is global problem solving and a key player isn't there, effectiveness is compromised, period.
So the suggestion here is to integrate these challenging, analytical questions, assess the long-term sustainability, the internal politics of the bloc. It shows the author has thought through the counterarguments.
It adds a layer of credibility.
It really does.
Okay, so a concrete example. What about the China and Russia dynamic? The piece notes they gained more room.
Mm-hmm.
We could use that to pose a critical question. Does their gain actually benefit the global South as a whole? Or does it risk making countries like South Africa or Brazil subordinate to Beijing or Moscow's interests?
Ooh, that's good. That introduces so much necessary complexity. It's not just a simple U.S. out, global South in narrative anymore.
It's a geopolitical dance.
It is. And we can do the same thing with India, stabilizing the summit. Challenge that observation. Was that an act of resurgence? A proactive, offensive move?
Or was it purely defensive? A reaction just to stop the whole thing from collapsing into chaos because the U.S. was gone?
Because if it's just damage control, that's a very different kind of power than agenda setting.
A very different story. And what about looking inward, at the global South itself? The piece kind of treats it as a monolith.
Right. Was consensus on climate or trade really unified? Or did the U.S. boycott just paper over huge disagreements between, say, India, Indonesia, and South Africa?
Acknowledging those internal fault lines makes the analysis so much more trustworthy, even if it tempers the big resurgence headline a little.
And acknowledging that fragility isn't a weakness in the argument. It's a sign of a robust one. It shows you know the limits of your own hypothesis. Which actually brings us very neatly to the third point. This one is more about structure, about how the catalyst for this whole event is framed.
Okay.
The structural organization of the list detailing why the U.S. skipped the G20 can be tightened to create a stronger, more focused causal link to the central theme of global South pushback.
I know the section you mean, the why Trump skipped the G20 part. It lists 5 different reasons.
And it does a great job listing them, but the weakness is that they're all sort of presented as equal. You have huge policy friction points like disagreement with the global South focus, right next to internal strategic things like domestic politics.
And when you present them as an equally weighted list, it kind of weakens the core thesis.
It really does. It dilutes the focus. If domestic politics is just as important as the ideological fight, then the boycott becomes less of a global confrontation and more of a domestic calculation. It loses its punch.
So we need to clarify the causal chain.
Exactly. The suggestion is to restructure those causes into a clear hierarchy. The ideological friction points, the disagreement with South Africa's foreign policy, the tension over climate, those need to be foregrounded.
Those are the primary motivations.
Yes. And then things like domestic politics or the shift to bilateral deals, those become the mechanisms, the strategic consequences of that ideological split.
That framing makes the boycott itself a much more powerful analytical point. It's not just a list of reasons. It's an argument about ideological confrontation.
So concretely, what you could do is group the policy disagreements first. South Africa, climate, global South focus. Bam, bam, bam.
Then you explicitly state how the shift to bilateral deals is the direct result of rejecting the G20's new priorities.
You're connecting A, the policy friction, to B, the strategic mechanism. The structure itself makes the argument for you.
And you could really enhance the analysis of South Africa's role there. The material notes the boycott was justified because South Africa is not aligned with U.S. interests.
A strong critique.
A very strong critique. So connect that directly to the theme of the first G20 on African soil being overshadowed.
Show that the boycott wasn't just a no-show. It was a targeted diplomatic action designed to undercut the Global South's ability to host and set the agenda.
By prioritizing the ideological drivers in the structure, the whole narrative supports the idea that this was a fight over power, not just a scheduling conflict.
Exactly. That structural change transforms it from a list of facts into a really compelling piece of political analysis. This has been incredibly constructive. I think these changes could really deepen the material.
I agree. So, just to quickly recap for the listener, the 3 main actionable areas are, first, strengthening that resurgence thesis. Get the diplomatic receipts, the specific policy evidence, to prove that sustained power was actually used.
Second, enhance the robustness. Bring in the counterarguments, assess the fragility of the moment, and really confront that complex China and Russia dynamic.
And third, refine the causal chain. Restructure the reasons for the boycott to be more analytical, putting ideology first.
The core idea here is so powerful, and it's grounded in excellent reporting. These changes will just maximize its significance, its analytical depth. It turns a strong report into a really comprehensive, challenging analysis of global power.
Absolutely. We are very eager to see how you implement these suggestions. Please feel free to submit your improved work back to us for a follow-up critique.